Hi everyone, this is my last video from my study, which is very sad for me but also very exciting because going forward all my new content will be live from Indonesia. I thought I would share with you today the presentation I'm delivering to eBay to help their monitoring team be more compliant with ensuring their users do not violate eBay's Prohibited and Restricted Items policy, including their plants and seed policy. I thought I'd share the video with you to help you develop your own green flags and tools for buying plants online, to understand how we track the illegal wildlife trade and how to be more sustainable with your plant purchases. Right, so this is my final dress rehearsal for the eBay. So this is the presentation. So, hello everyone. My name is Fraser Cook, a PhD student studying biodiversity management at the University of Kent Storrow Institute of Conservation and Ecology, in partnership with IPB University Indonesia. My research is focused on the sustainability of Indonesia's ornamental plant trade. The research involves species mapping, assessments in forests, nursery stock, and e-commerce analysis across Indonesia's diverse islands, all home to unique native plants. For my e-commerce analysis, I have focused on Indonesia's native species listed on CITES that include Pathopodium, or slipper orchids. These are listed on Appendix 1. Nepenthes, or pitcher plants, Old World, most are listed on Appendix 2, apart from 2 species on Appendix 1. Phalaenopsis gigantica, a moth orchid, is listed on Appendix 2. Also, a red list species such as Dendrodendron capra, classed as endangered due to overharvesting and destruction of their forests. Finally, I'm also looking at a genre with increasing conservation concern, including ant plants, Corybus, and hoyas. Why is this important? Indonesia's growing international plant trade, coupled with it being a global hotspot for flowering plants diversity, has increased pressure on plant population and rainforest habitats. Orchid poaching is well known, but the trade has rapidly expanded to new native flora, creating a research gap. This booming economy benefits rural communities and associated nurseries, but resellers along the supply chain make more profit. This drives overharvesting, which is exacerbated by deforestation. As one plant hunter said, if we don't take it, someone else will. Overexploitation of native species results in decline in genetic diversity, meaning there could be an increased risk of species not surviving pests, diseases, or mutations. Collectors and sellers who will use non-traditional markets such as e-commerce sites, which contributes to plant overharvesting due to less regulations. Also, the plant the collectors want are rarely sold in plant shops. Collectors prefer direct sales to get the latest rare plant and will pay a premium. With many plants not listed on CITES, an updated approach is needed, which is why I'm analysing supply chains from forest to home. eBay is a site not used in Indonesia, but everything discussed is transferable to all e-commerce sites. My research started in March this year, and I'm now at the halfway stage. I'm manually collecting sales listings data from e-commerce sites in Indonesia, from Shopee, the leading e-commerce online shopping platform in Southeast Asia and Taiwan. Also Tokopedia, an Indonesian company with over 100 million monthly active users. To date, I have recorded over 4,200 records with the following criteria: native to Indonesia, but can be widespread across the region; must be a single product listing and not a selection of products with a drop-down list of plants on sale. Unnamed species can also be recorded, but those listings are shared with my Indonesian counterpart to check and get purchase for the herbarium. Excluding criteria are as follows. Widespread in cultivation, for example, I would exclude Nepenthes alata or Hoya carinosa, as these have been sold in plant shops for a long time. Hybrids as well as cultivated plants and non-native species. I'm capturing what attributes are being employed to determine sales tactics, conservation status, seller location, and new species on the market, to support the identification of hotspots for harvesting and trade routes for suspected new species and potential illegal trade, to help CITES and non-CITES species get more conservation support and build a sustainable plant trade. From this case example of Hoya, you can see that I'm analysing it as a species for conservation. It is not a listed species that falls under CITES. I'm using it to demonstrate as the several attributes has been used by the seller to market the product. These are the attributes that are being recorded that may signify wild harvesting relevant for today's discussion. Rarity. Specialist online consumers have been found to have a preference for rare plants. There are items marked with generic descriptions, rare or very rare. Recently described are in high demand and most likely wild origin due to the time it will take for the plant to reproduce offspring or propagate to produce recognizably as artificially propagated plants that are grown in a nursery. However, it needs to be noted that collectors believe that wild collected cuttings, or as it's called clone material, is less problematic. So a clone on a plant label may indicate wild origin. Also, plant names are changed all the time, which complicates matters around recently described. No ID or affinity to a named species. These are plants that have no correct taxonomic name that may have been collected, or the seller has no awareness of plant species name or knowledge of botany. But usually, these are sold in conjunction with known wild provenance, as with the example on the slide here. Known wild provenance indicates the plant's access to seed or living material are directly sourced from the country of origin. Sellers will add provenance to a plant's label as collectors have preference for different varieties. This drives overharvesting as collectors like to collect the same species from different islands even if they have no taxonomic significance. Provenance doesn't have to be named location. It can be a mountain, river or jungle, which I will come on to the next slide. I will now focus on CITES listed species and where these listings may indicate illegal trade. Phalaenopsis gigantica, CITES Appendix 2, research as endangered. This can be traded if the plant has been cultivated in adherence to CITES guidelines, so cannot show signs of being collected in the wild and sold as wild origin. I have recorded 5 listings of large plants sold as jungle, meaning wild origin. Originally sold from Kalimantan, Borneo, it is native home and now sold from West Java. I've been able to identify the location source, supply chain in Indonesia and potential supply chains internationally. This indicates an increase of wild collected material, which is a conservation concern. Pathopodium, tonsum, the slipper orchids, CITES Appendix 1, prohibited international trade unless under exceptional circumstances. Wild collected specimens require permits and cannot be traded for horticultural purposes. This species is native to Sumatra and has been advertised with a provenance in the top picture, indicating wild harvested and illegal trade. Similarly, the bottom picture, the plant provenance is being sold by sellers in North Sumatra, native where the species is found. Advertised with photographs in the wild, potentially resold to seller in Java, like the first listing. The same species was sold by a seller on Shopee without provenance, but pictures of the species in the wild. Rather than a picture of the nursery product, I used reverse image lookup to discover the picture source. The picture came from a previous listing on another site called Bulklapak, another Indonesian e-commerce company. The seller is based in Padang Sidapong, can't pronounce it very well, North Sumatra. Using the reverse image lookup has potentially uncovered the illegal harvesting and supply chain of this species. A high price item can indicate wild collection, especially when connected with other attributes such as provenance, wild images, and rare labels. But also if a plant is sold regularly in cultivation at an average price, but on occasion sold at an expensive price, this can indicate that it's wild collected by a buyer. Like in the case of Nepenthes northenia, sold at 1.5 million Indonesian rupiah, which is a lot of money compared to its normal cultivated value. However, further investigation would be required. Another example in the Nepenthes species, Bocchiana, has been sold with a wild provenance of Moratus Mountains in South Kalimantan, however, sold as seed. Wild collected seeds from Appendix 2 listed Nepenthes species can be traded internationally, but the trade must be regulated to prevent overexploitation. Proper checks and permits would need to be investigated further. This also indicated that the further monitoring would be needed to avoid overharvesting, as Nepenthes is under research in the plant trade and at risk to trade more than even before, particularly to known wild provenance and increase of new collectors. So here are my recommendations for monitoring. Provenance. Ensure verification of plants sold with provenance, especially when vague terms like jungle are used. For example, on the eBay listing here, the Pathopedium, native to China and Vietnam, on CITES 1 is being sold with a provenance, which raises suspicion. Monitoring pricing. High-priced plants should be flagged for additional scrutiny, especially paired with indicators of wild collection and rare tags, and compared to other listings with lower prices. Taxonomy checks. Implement measures to verify correct species or origin, especially with no ID or affinity species, to prevent mislabeling of wild collected plants. Recently described species that have been recently published, particularly those with rare labels or clones, require further scrutiny. The easiest way to monitor taxonomy is to use the Plants of the Wild Online or International Plants Names Index database. Use reverse image lookup. Verify the images and listings to ensure that they are not traced back to wild collected plants or listings that indicate wild harvesting. Verify permits. Like in the case of eBay listings on Nepenthes raja, CITES 1, it is being sold worldwide on eBay with a rare label without any item description about legality or overseas origins. This raises a concern, as commercial sellers still collect seeds from the national park illegally. Their sellers should provide the appropriate permits to ensure compliance with trade regulations, especially under CITES guidelines. Now, this is the moment where I would end the presentation to eBay, but I wanted to give you the opportunity to test what you have learned. So I'm going to give you 30 seconds to review 2 listings and make a judgment about the legality or sustainability of the plant listing. Cue elevator music. The first image was Dendrobium capra. Now a reminder, it's not a CITES listed species, but on the red list as vulnerable. As the plant has been advertised with jungle label, it is not a sustainable plant listing as it has been wild harvested. Now, as you remember, hoyas are not listed on CITES, but still require permits for selling overseas and transporting between Indonesia. Unless it has been taken from a national park, it lacks protection in trade. Now, if you understand these species' nature distribution, you will know it's from Borneo and not from Thailand, meaning it's not a wild provenance and was presumed cultivated in a Thai nursery. However, we do not know how this plant was taken to Thailand or what generation of plant this is. But that's a topic for another time regarding the supply chains. If you want to learn more about my work in Indonesia, exploring rainforest and learning about more sustainable plant trade, you can follow me on my handle Botanical Otter on Instagram and here on YouTube. Thanks everyone.